Hi there, and welcome back to The Marketing Hustle. If you're new here, I'm your host, Lottie, and I'm obsessed with startup marketing. I run two businesses. One is called Upworld, which is a community for people in startup marketing, and the other is Brand Hackers, where we run fractional marketing teams for brands with big dreams. Today, I got to chat with Huib van Bockel, founder of TENZING, the energy drink. TENZING has created the energy drink category, and some data I saw sneakily on the internet suggested that last year they grew 50% year on year, which is pretty incredible after 8 years in market. We talked about why Huib thinks that purpose doesn't really matter, which was pretty controversial. We talked about why he doesn't believe in hierarchy in building teams. We talked about the importance of finding work you're really good at and how to create very effective community marketing. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit subscribe so that you're the first to hear about the next episode of The Marketing Hustle. It really makes a difference to helping us woo incredible guests into coming around to my house to have conversations just like this one.
Cool.
What is a myth about marketing?
I think I've got a big, I think the biggest bullshit, can I say that word?
Yeah.
Is the start with why.
Okay.
I hate that one. Do you know it?
Of course I know it. And why is it bullshit?
It ruined so many other founders, I think. Because he goes in his story, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Which, remember?
Yeah, of course I
remember.
remember.
Like, as if anyone, I always think, as anyone stands in front of the shelf looking for a TENZING and they go, I wonder why Huib van Bockel, I mean, they can't even if they would know me, they wouldn't be pronouncing my name.
Yeah, why that man?
Why did he do it? Because if I don't know, I'm not going to buy it. Like, they just go up to the shelf and think, that looks refreshing, looks healthy, I feel like some energy. So I think, and there's a truth to the story, I guess a bit. We're about finding your purpose and but even purpose, I think, is a bit of an overused word.
I think that's really made me laugh because I think you're so right. And there's like a whole generation. Maybe we're slightly past it, but 5 years ago...
It was bad.
It was like a purpose pandemic.
Exactly.
And we were all so obsessed with this deep soul connection to a customer who doesn't care.
Who doesn't care, really. Yeah. I mean, I think there is of course, there's differences. But I remember once I did a lot of talks in the beginning as well to help fund TENZING. And I remember the height of that why-ness, there was a girl who came up to me and said, I'm starting a business and I just want to show it to you, and it's called I've got a logo ready, and my why is that because that's Brexit and Trump, and people were people have lost their kind of way a bit, and I want to talk about connection and love, and this is my logo, and that was like a heart logo, and I said, okay, what's the product? I don't know yet, but I'm thinking about maybe cookies. This is an actual story. I'm like, okay, well, start with. I would start with your product at the end.
Yeah, maybe make some cookies. Yeah,
maybe make some cookies first. See if they're any better than the other cookies on the market. But so
your connection cookies.
Yeah, so I think, and that it still goes on to this day. And even purpose, I think, also with work, I think yes, it can get you through a bad day sometimes, but I think purpose is also just exaggerated. You can also kind of love what you do, just the craft of what you do, or working with people.
Yeah, you can get fulfillment from the process.
Fulfillment would maybe be a better word than purpose, because people think purpose has to be I'm going to change the world, and it was misused as well by the likes of Facebook, and we're going to connect the world, but were they really So it was a way to attract talent. So I think that's probably one of the biggest myths out there. I actually genuinely believe start with an amazing product. Funny if Apple, who's very much used in the start with why, they didn't go. Did Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs sit there and go, okay, what's our why? What's our why? And he says they want to change the world, right? Just change the world. So they didn't go what are we going to do? Yoga retreats or cookbooks? How are we going to change the world? No, let's build a computer. It was just Steve Wozniak was this massive, brilliant computer nerd who wanted to create this thing. And, it was all about the product. And Steve Jobs has even said it's always about the product.
And make the product really beautiful.
Made it fucking beautiful.
For the sake of it being a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
Which I think is, it's the logical conclusion of that. There doesn't need to be a why for the beauty of it. Let it be beautiful in and of itself.
Exactly. And he just got the product really well. And then they always say but he wasn't talking about the bits and the power and yes, because people don't care about that, but they do care about the product and they want it to look great. So it's just exactly the same with Tesla. Yeah. Tesla's a great example of that. Does Elon Musk really care about the planet? I'm not so sure, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, he got, or he basically didn't even launch the brand, right? Someone else did, and he basically stole it from them. But then, the design like matches, like it's about the future and a futuristic design. So it's like they've looked at cars. What do people care about? It's all about image, right? Image, and mainly image. image. And then it's got to look cool and got to make you feel a way. So they could just nail the product better than anyone else. And I think that's the 100% the biggest myth. And then you get even Red Bull, where I was at, I was at for 8 years at Red Bull. People forget that they always think about like Formula One and the cartoons, but it was just about the product. The product became the hype. It was a drink that gave you energy.
Yeah.
There was no such thing. And it got this hype, and it was forbidden. And it's because there was this massive hype around it, because it was forbidden in Germany, it actually grew. That made it so special. Because people there was rumors that they had 20 cups of coffee, and that even Red Bull and had taurine, and it was like, bull's semen. They thought it was in there in the beginning, right?
All the Red Bull, that's so interesting. All the Red Bull marketing hype was about product.
The product. There was no ads or anything.
And now everything else is kind of replacing.
And then it's loyalty nearly, right? So you launched your product.
Yeah.
Product, famous Jeff Bezos quote, right? Marketing's the price you pay for an unremarkable product, which is a great example, right? So you start with an amazing product, and then you build that brand. So have the brand already thought into it, because that's where the loyalty then comes in.
Yeah.
Right. I think then you build the loyalty and the trial and all that kind of stuff with your brand.
Yeah.
So I think, and that is difficult, because I always think the more products you go in the beginning, the easier it is to sell in the beginning.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is like, let's say Vita Coco is a good example, although they did make it in the long run as the main brand. It was clearly a coconut water, right? The more product-led you go, the more people understand it, and you sell more in the beginning, but you could lose share at later.
Yeah.
So like TENZING was very much a brand drink. It's TENZING natural energy, right? I could have put like natural energy right in the beginning, or healthy, whatever. Would have sold a bit more maybe in the beginning, because people got it easier, but then later anyone else could just stick that on. So it's that right balance of starting with enough products, but having the brand there to kind of make sure that when other people follow, which they always do, that you're like the brand they want to kind of associate with, or like they like. Yeah.
What's been the secret to TENZING's marketing success?
Well, I think first of all, we created, it's the product that was totally new, right? Everyone was, and I think at the end of the day, again, coming back to the product, it's got to have two things, very simple. It's got to be relevant, it's got to be unique, right? If it's not relevant, people are not going to buy it. And if it's not unique, then it's already there, right? So I think with us, relevance was people liked the uplift. People liked energy. That's not going anywhere. I just asked myself, there's two trends in the market. Is the need for energy going to go up or down? Well, that's like, that will continue to grow.
Yeah, life's pretty tiring.
Yeah, exactly. Is health
not going to change?
No, exactly. Is health a trend that's going to stay or get bigger? Yes. So it's like, okay, can we change the energy drinks market for good? That was our kind of question. Like, can we change? Can you get the same amount of energy, but deliver it through ingredients that are just natural, that don't have high sugars, don't have artificial sweeteners? And I think that's the key of the success. Like, there is just I think, I assume you've tasted a TENZING?
I have.
It tastes good. It's refreshing. So I think, that's really where it starts, right? We have the highest repeat purchase. Like we have on Amazon, we have over 80% repeat purchase, highest of the whole soft drinks category. So I think, because that is the basis again. If you're starting a business, if your loyalty's not there, then there's no way you'll make it, right? So you have to get those repeat purchase people in. So I'd say, product is the number one.
Okay.
Starting point. I'm a big product believer.
What have your marketing team been doing, and how have they contributed to the growth of the product? Yeah.
So then I think the second point that you then do is, again, coming from Red Bull and knowing the budgets. And the reach and the entrenched habits that are results of those years and years of lots of marketing. You have to start small. So I'm like, always focus on a community, focus on a region. I remember right in the beginning, so that's the marketing, what we did in the beginning was literally we'd have like a little area, and then we'd try, because it was hard to get into like retail in the beginning, right? So you go like, we got into Whole Foods or Planet Organic, and then you go like get some convenience stores, and then just sample a lot like in Planet Organic, but around those stores where we worked. So literally have a really we'd even drop pins. Remember that? So I think that still does, but I don't think Facebook doesn't really work that well anymore. But we'd literally drop a little pin on that area for Facebook ads.
Yeah.
So you'd have like a little bit of Facebook ads, sampling, trying to get like stickers on the doors, and really make it a success in this little tiny area.
Yeah.
And then kind of take that further. So I think in the beginning it was really, I did also social media. Like we had our Instagram, and looking back, I just wouldn't have done that really.
Really?
No, I think for some brands, it obviously is just incredibly successful. But for a brand like ours, where I think, it's all about trying the product again, or like it's not a brand like ours. I think when you're a founder as well, you have to think, what am I extremely good at? I think that's nearly the other thing about maybe a myth is don't look for that kind of gap in the market. Look what your gap is, or what you're amazing
I really
at.
agree with that. I think there's enough gaps everywhere.
Yeah.
When you're small, it's about where's the path of least resistance, and where are you going to do the best job.
Yeah, exactly.
Not, I have this conversation all the time with founders. Are like, my customer's not on TikTok. I'm like, there's enough of your customers on TikTok. If you're really good at TikTok, show up on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly.
Worry about where you can make your energy and time, money go the furthest, not where there's a gap, because none of us are big enough for that to be a worry.
No, exactly. And I think again, I always forget the name, the ice creams that went viral on TikTok.
Oh, Little Moons.
Squidgy
ones.
Yeah, the squidgy ones. Again, and it was like
Everyone
a product.
does this. Yeah. Everyone's like,
the brand.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't know if they planned it, but like, look at it was amazing because it was like product led again. Yeah. It was like you bought the product, and then it wasn't like them doing something that was like cool or anything. And
it was someone in their car in Tesco's.
Yeah, so it was just because it was so again. So I think you look at your own skill set.
Yeah.
Because I remember I started one business before, and it was actually pretty cool, I would say, because I thought I wanted to start in a fashion brand, and I started at the bottom with socks. So that was like my insight.
With the view to
just
peak hats,
maybe.
And
but it was more around the idea of like when I was young. Like, it was still my mom would buy my boxer shorts in the supermarket. And then all of a sudden, like Calvin Klein came along with Marky Mark. I don't know if you still remember Marky Mark, but he was like on the billboards and like a ripped dude in his boxers. And that was like, all of a sudden a boxer shirt went from like £3 to like 50. And I thought, and then I remember like the sock hasn't been revolutionized. No one has done anything with the sock. So I thought, let's make some, and it's quite a visible item at the end of the day, more visible, you could argue, than a boxer short. And then at the same time, like, the internet was starting, so this was back in early 2000s. And I was thinking, no one's going to buy clothes online, which obviously now they do, but back in the day they didn't, because you want to fit them. And then socks is the only thing you don't have to kind of fit online, and it goes through your post office. So we made it was a real fun brand. We made it was called like Dr. Finkelbaum. It was like a doctor who would like prescribe you a sock. So It was like you do this online test, like the psychology tests, we showed you like a carrot and like, and it was all like, one of those. But then it was like, you need this sock. This is the sock you need. And you got like a doctor's thing. And it was like wear once daily with clothes, or, may cause side effects of high confidence or whatever. Don't wear while showering. All those kind of like, doctor's prescription.
So good.
And it was like really nice. And then we sent it through the post. And we were on the catwalk in Amsterdam Fashion Show, and it was really funny. But then I realized I loved creating the brand. There was 100% gap in the market, like 100%, because Happy Socks.
Yeah.
They started about a year later, and they're one of the biggest.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so you're just before them.
Yeah. They're huge. So, I mean, could this business have been a big success? 100%.
Yeah.
But I didn't like it at all, because I loved building the brand. But afterwards, because it was also in a time where you couldn't have outsourced you had to sell like 50,000 items a month for it to be outsourced. There was no outsourcing partners. So it was basically me, because I did it with my wife or my girlfriend at the time. And I remember we'd go like, let's go to the movie, and we go online to like see, and let's just see if we sold a sock. And we sold 10 socks. And we had to like pack these socks. So it was like, so the after stuff was like, and then it was also in socks. It's not very exciting, right?
Yeah.
So I just realized like that was my big like learnings from that was like I wasn't like an internet guy. I don't know. I'm not a technical whatever. You know, I'm not a app builder. I'm not like a logistics person. So it just didn't fit with me really, like, you know, so I think that's the key thing is like, so my skill was building a beautiful brand and, you know, creating fun stories. I think that's probably my best skill. But also like doing things with sport, things that I enjoy doing. So that comes back. It's a long way to answer your question.
No, I'm here
but I
for
think,
it.
you know, again, coming back to your communities, what do I love? So I love running and I love climbing and I love like surfing. So then you could go into those communities and actually do something for people there, as opposed to like sitting behind your computer like, fulfilling socks.
Yeah.
So maybe you could argue that gap would have been bigger at the time. Market opportunity would have maybe been bigger, especially when I launched, because the start of the internet. But like, would I have enjoyed that journey? No.
No, and I think yes, you wouldn't have enjoyed it, but because you wouldn't have enjoyed it, you wouldn't have been
successful. 100%. And that's purpose. So it's not like purpose. Actually, funny enough, it did all go to charity. Even I had all my thing because the stock was meant to make you feel super good, but it was like with the tongue-in-cheek element. So it had lots of purpose in it, but I still didn't enjoy it.
It's not your purpose.
No, because I just didn't enjoy like the day-to-day work. And I think that's probably the most important thing in like, what's your day-to-day stuff that you just enjoy doing? And it's never going to be 100% of your work. But if you can make that, whatever, 75, wow, then you're like a winner, right? And so I think that's the main role of any person's job, to try and find that. But also if you start your own business, that's the thing. It's like, do I really enjoy creating things, or do I love selling? You know, that's the kind of, you know, purpose or fulfillment is you should be looking for.
But a customer's not going to buy it for that reason. No. Let's be clear.
No, exactly.
That's what gives you the energy to make it happen.
And exactly, you can add those elements, like, you know, because I think again, if I like, but I think then it does shine through. So if I love climbing and I'm going to organize the coolest climbing event and I'm there and I'm enjoying it, which we had the other day, we had this really cool climbing event, the best day, maybe me, even on my TENZING time. And that they feel, right? Because I love it. We created a whole new concept. I was there. There was like 500 people, you know, everyone from the team. A lot of people love climbing. They feel that the TENZING people are cool. They're there, they're climbing. That's what people feel, right? Yeah. But is that a purpose? I want to make people climb more, whatever. It's just like, I love this.
It's just sharing something you love.
Yeah, so I think for like fulfillment, although I don't know, is probably a way better term than purpose. Because I think purpose is people get off on tangents of changing the world and stuff, which you can do. Like I always think like, I'm changing the world in that sense, because every time they drink this one and not another energy drink, they have 60% less sugar.
You're changing the world in like a tiny positive way, but
you're
not
it's more, and again, it's more product-led.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, if you can change it by, you know, having a product that doesn't have an impact on the environment, you know, doesn't have a bad impact on your body, that's where your change is. Yeah. But that's, again, sitting in your product.
Yeah. So what marketing does
Every
TENZING...
time I say product, I just take a little...
On cue. What marketing does TENZING do today?
So we're very community-led. So again, sampling, we do, you know, so we go in the climbing world and we do a lot with running. So running is quite broad. So a great example so we have a real clear approach to every community where we go like, be where they are. So like, you know, be at festivals or, you know, go to run clubs, you know, sell also if possible, like in the climbing wall, we're there. Then obviously like have some kind of cool younger athletes. Again, you know, it doesn't have to be a limit. It's more like the outdoors, people that do it for the love of it. Yeah. Sometimes they also compete, but our ideal athlete is someone who just does it because they love doing it.
And when you say have them, that means like an ambassador relationship?
Yeah, that would be like a sponsored or product, you know. So yeah, there would be, definitely. So it's just a branded athlete. Yeah. But again, within our small niche communities.
And how do you choose these niche communities?
Because I love them.
You just choose places
and
you
I think,
want to be.
Well, I think also like, you know, again, if I look at like Red Bull and Monster, they are like more motorsports driven. They do a lot of sports, basically nearly every sport, I would say now. But everyone will know them from the Formula Ones and monster trucks. And we, of course, only don't do anything that's carbon, you know, driven. So we never do motorcycle races or any of that. So all our sports are literally like just human and nature fueled. Yeah. So that's kind of how we choose. right? Which is what I love doing as well. So it's like, running in nature, climbing, surfing, all those kind of outdoor sports, outdoor/adventure type sports.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have your list of your hobbies.
Yeah. That's where it
They then
starts.
become a marketing strategy.
Yeah.
So you
Hire people that also love those
hire
hobbies.
people who have the same hobbies, inclusive hiring policy.
Oh, you get lots of different people that like the same thing.
I'm teasing you. Then you be where they are, find ambassadors who love it.
Yeah.
Loads of sampling.
And then sampling a lot. So, and then also in the community, always try and add, we always have them clean up their playgrounds. So for running is a great example. So again, coming from our own, I remember I went out for a run. So running became also very important for me mentally in the beginning to kind of keep sane.
Yeah.
Right? It was like my way to kind of, which I think is also a big recommendation, find something you just really enjoy doing to kind of keep your head off something. Yeah. So I'd lived in Chiswick at the time, I'd run next to the river, beautiful run. And I remember one day I came back and there was an article who said, like, in London, on some days you might as well not run because the pollution's so bad.
Yeah.
And then it was an article that was Imperial College, had done all the research, and I reached out to them and I said, look, is there something we can do with this data, because it's probably not going to be used. So we had a meeting, which is so cool because that was literally just after I left Red Bull. Wow. And Red Bull was always thinking about like bigger stunts and like, and I'd never like talked to a professor how we could solve pollution. That was like, wow, this is inspiring, Yeah. And then we'd, not that we can solve it, but we came out with one
meeting sorted.
Yeah. But we came out with this beautiful, so his main insight was, there is obviously way more polluted areas than others in London. There's way more polluted times. There's way more polluted, periods of the year. And people don't know this. So then we worked with Imperial and Strava, and we created the clean air running tracker. So our little payoff was find the clean air and the big smoke. So there's an app, you could download it. It syncs with your Strava. It's offline now. We're in the process of fixing it. We'll come back for it pretty soon. And you just, you run, and then you can either do it before or after you see how clean the air was that you ran in. Yeah. So super cool little tool that you can just kind of, use to, run in clean air. So we always try and find an angle where we say, okay, how could we help runners find clean air? We work with Surfers Against Sewage for surfers. How can we help surfers surf clean oceans? We work, our first, of course, we're at TENZING was, we discovered the recipe in Nepal. And one of the things we do is we built and maintain like 15 bins on the way to Everest because it's very littered. So again, the ability for people to climb clean mountains. So it's all about like, cleaning up, helping the communities to clean up their playgrounds. So that's kind of our approach. And that a big part of our marketing budget goes into like building bins and creating like trackers for people to run in clean air, working with Surfers Against Sewage, all that kind of stuff. There is the hope, by the way, that you do get like people, because I do believe in that a little bit, but again, it starts with the products, but then people that are actual runners see that. And there's probably not all the runners that we work with know that we have the clean air tracker, but there is this small group and they will love us for it, right?
So that's very inspiring, but I can imagine there are marketing managers listening to this thinking, I would never get that away with my board as a marketing plan. Like I can't just say I want to do nice things that make the world a better place and call that marketing. No. How do you measure or hold that team accountable? Or does it just not matter?
Well, I remember my first ever marketing budget went to building bins in Nepal. While we're a London-based business. Yeah, I think over the years I've had like 5 people go. Yes, it was like they said like, oh, I saw, and because we have a little plaque on these bins, they're not like bins sound like bad as I always try to find. Is there a better word? But because there used to be like these kind of oil barrels that fall over, but now we build like this. They're stone. You've got the 2, and we also help kind of empty them. Yeah. But there has a little TENZING plaque on it. So people like, again, 5 people have said, oh, I saw that plaque, or took a picture and sent it to me. Like, yes. Did they buy a TENZING now? Well, I don't know. Yeah. So, but look, I guess there is an element of that kind of that small group of people that does know, and that becomes, because we do have that hardcore fan base that does like those things that we do. And also it's because we interact with them. I think that's the most about it. Like, again, with the run clubs, we're there. Someone, again, from the team, Will, he's a great runner. He goes to these run clubs, hands out cans. So people, a lot of people in the running community will know him. So again, that is about finding people that also enjoy these things, and they kind of immerse themselves in that kind of community. So I think that's and that is indeed less measurable. But I think most marketing, unless it's like a D2, that's why the whole D2C, like whatever your churn or your lifetime value, but everyone knows that's also not a long game. Because it always goes down. You find your group that all loves natural energy, and then you have to find other groups that don't. Like, then you have to build your brand. So everyone always tells you have to build and then they call them something else, like your future customer or whatever. Yeah. But I think if you can really infiltrate sounds like a bad word, like you're going undercover, but it's more like really immerse yourself into these kind of communities. Then something can happen, and we see that we met. By the way, if you say I measure it, like in climbing, bouldering, we're the number one drink in bouldering by far. Like, so this, we even outsell coffee in all these places. So you only have to go into a bouldering wall to see like 4 or 5 people drinking a TENZING.
Okay.
So I think that also kind of, you get that network effect. So it's again, because you've got such a big brands to compete with. You have to have like small communities because people are all like, everyone in the world now is a marketing professional, right? So you go, if you do a little research and they say, why not drinking it? Literally they go, familiarity. I'm not familiar with the brand. And it's like that, we're all social beings. You want to see someone else drink it in order to believe it. And I think in those little communities, you can then say, oh, I saw that one person drinking, that person drinking. And then because it's just kind of trust, really. So I think that's our whole approach.
Is there a tension between your distribution and the pressure to support rate of sale and this community-focused approach?
Well, I don't know if you saw, we did do the out of home as well. So we did in London. So we did actually two approaches. One was community led and one was regional led. Yeah. Now regional would be like tiny London places, and then just like out of home in London.
Okay.
So we got a great deal with Global, which is like available to all startups. You can get do you know that or not?
I don't know. No, I know of them, but I don't know if they're deals. So
So it's a simple model, effectively, where you've got inventory. Yeah. They have inventory to sell, and then the inventory that hasn't sold can go to a startup. Yeah. But you get pretty good reach. I don't know if you saw TENZING campaigns in the past. You get pretty good reach for discounts. So you have to go direct with them. So you go through agencies, but they've been amazing in our journey. Yeah.
Have you done that many times?
Yeah, we did that a lot. We did that. A lot. So our awareness in London. So look, in London now, as a result, we're the number 3 brand in grocery. So we've passed Relentless, Rockstar. So Relentless, whatever. Rockstar's Pepsi owned. Relentless is Coke, Monster owned. So we're a proper brand now in London. So I think that's kind of shows the power of that. You need that. Again, we did most of our sampling efforts in London. And again, London is so big. It's like, I think I remember I checked this right in the beginning. So don't. I don't know if it's still correct, but I think if you took all the energy drinks markets as a countries, and then you took London as a country, I think it would be still like even the top 10 or something, or top 15. So again, and it's such a like little great area to. Yeah. It's not that big, and I would always anywhere, and I think that's also obviously 100% rule for any successful business. I would say. Is that they started small, which is logical, but some people forget.
Oh, I think so many people forget. Yeah. It takes real courage to say, I'm only going to worry about London for 5 years because it's a big enough market that I'm not going to reach high enough brand awearness. No, well, we do still do it after 8 years. Yeah. I mean, I think in London we're still not scratching the surface even, right? So I think, we'll be doing that for a while. And same question about measurement, because I just know that the audience of this get grilled on it. Do you, how did you get that first out of home? How did you decide to do that first out of home spend? How do you measure it? Or do you just trust the strategy?
Yeah, well, I think you have to look. It is important once you do that because that you start to, that costs quite a bit of money, even with the rates that we're getting. So there's some rules that you have to. So don't just do that because they always, there's some clear rules, as in you have to have a minimum weighted distribution of like 60%. They say or something. Again, it's good to check those rules. Because I do believe in them. Yeah, it's the whole principle of like, if you're only available in, let's say, even if it's Tesco, if you're only available in Tesco, they always say like, you see the out of home, you walk into Sainsbury's, Tenzing's not there. You walk into Waitrose, Tenzing's not there.
No one walks to Waitrose. You walk to Tesco's, you walk to the shop that's nearest to you, it's not there.
It's not there, you buy something else. And by the time you go to the second shop, they've forgotten you.
Exactly.
So you have to be. So we only started doing when we were in every retailer. We really knew that we were at that distribution level, and then we started doing it. So and I think try and activate on the shop floor at the same time as much as you can. So there are those kind of basic. Normal rules that you should follow. So we've had quite a lot because we were quite visible. I think we were one of the first kind of startups that really took this global deal. And I think so. I got a lot of questions. Is it worth it? But or do a little. So that's the first rule is that, and the second rule is that you have to go big. So you don't just do a little burst of, let's say, £50,000 and do
such good advice,
because then it's like that's waste. So we've always said you go big or go home, and that's kind of like media side. You can go small in communities and sampling, but when you do media, you have to do it big.
I think that mistake gets made so often that you try and do a test of media, but if the test is too small, it's just the test is never going to work.
No, exactly. So I remember when I started, I did do like a small, like maybe like the smallest one just to show the pictures and show the retailers, look, we're working on it. But now everyone does that just with the Photoshop, right?
There's AI for that now.
Yeah, so it's like, look, we're out of home. And you always have to look, are they really out of home? No one really knows on LinkedIn,
Such
whatever.
A weird trend.
Yeah, exactly. So I would recommend if you do that, just do it like with Photoshop. Yeah. Because then it's like, we didn't do that, but it wasn't that, like back in the day, like 7-8 years ago, it wasn't really done. So we did do one of those where we just, because it is, I think also out of home and that kind of stuff is important for the retailers. Yeah. So again, coming back to your rate of sale question, it is a difficult one, right? It's the number one challenge for any brand that goes into retail to kind of hit those hurdles. And but I think, just sticking with it, buying time. I think that's also important, again, when you launch into that you show what's in it for them. Like we've really got a clear story, right? We're HFSS compliant. 60% of the energy category is not HFSS compliant. We can trace all our ingredients. We carbon label, right? So retailers do like that. So then they'll give you a little longer. And I think because also your startup, that's also the cool thing. I think startups get longer as a principle. And then the UK is pretty special in that regard. Yeah. You've got the likes of like Tesco's and Sainsbury's, Waitrose, and like Co-op. They do give you a chance, right? And I think that's cool. And I think if I compare that to, so I'm from the Netherlands, it's more difficult there. And there's less startups in the food and drink space. I think the UK is probably, I don't know the US in that sense that well. But I think UK is probably the number one country, especially in Europe. Or not in Europe, but close to Europe. In this area that is really open to that.
So I read somewhere that you left a team of, you were managing 200 people at Red Bull.
Yeah, well, so like 120, I think, full time, and then a lot of students.
And then you were managing no one.
Myself, which is really tough.
How was that for you?
Unmanageable.
So what did you learn from growing a team that big? And then how did you translate those learnings into your own business?
Well, the simplest thing, if you talk about team, it's all about talent, right? So, but
just stop. That you've said that really offhand.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I think it's really funny because I remember in my Red Bull days, even if there was a big team, you just noticed, that was like also sizes that you don't. Well, you still know everyone pretty well, but. You just saw these pockets of talent, and then it's like I was just watching the Euros, of course, yesterday with Mbappe, and it's the same in teams, and you can't get a full team of like amazing talent, especially not if it's that big. But you can maybe when you're a startup, and I think, and sometimes I forget that myself again, and it's like sometimes I remember you go like, oh, you're like busy, really busy with something, and then you've got, I've got an interview today. Oh shit, like, you know, it's like, it's the most important thing you'll do. I know it's a bit like people say it all the time, but I think it is incredible. Again, if you think about, you know, how some of the channels that we're doing well in, you know, for instance, we do well in offices and universities. Now we've got a guy named Freddie who's running that. And we had a guy named Jack doing that. You know, he was the first employee number 1, still in the business, you know, and they've just built that whole channel by myself. I don't even like look at that really, you know, it's all done by them. And just extremely important if you'd have anyone that's less good. And I remember we were trying to open the gym channel for a while and we just couldn't do it. And looking back, we just didn't have the right talent on it. Yeah. And now we have someone, Minty, and she's great. And she also saw that it takes longer. And she said, I need more budget here. I need like the right products. I need to work with the right events. And now we work with Battle Cancer, for instance, a great like gym event, like a series of gym events that she like.
You get in the community.
You get into the community. Yeah, and it was like, you know, and I'm a big like believer in non-hierarchy. So I always remember that there. We were tight for budget at the time, and Minty was pitching for it. It was quite expensive, and I'm like, I'm against it. Like, I love it, but like, I don't think we can afford it right now. She was like, I remember with tears in her eyes, she was like, we need to do this. We need to do this. It's a great event, but it'll help us in the community. And she did, and it's like, you know, the results are now coming in, right? So I think, yeah, the talent is the most important thing. But I think from the the other transitions were more like, just ego-wise was quite big, of course. I think, you know, I always remember thinking, I know, because if you have a job that's that big, you know, I was head of marketing for Red Bull UK and Europe, loads of budget. And everyone wants to be your friend. Everyone wants to, like, you get taken out to, like, you know, all the events. Red Bull has a lot of events themselves, but you get taken out to all the concerts, give you the, you know, the big VIP treatments. And you know, of course, not about you, but about the brand you represent. But still, when you're out of that, and it like, and especially I remember that was my first moment. I was still all alone. And I met this, you know Joe Ben from Ugly, of course. Yeah. So I was like, I had no idea. I found him, or he found me. I don't remember how it went. And I said, how does this work? Like, I started a business, and it's like, because I'd never done sales. So he goes, yeah, it's all the trickle down, right? You get into like, you know, Selfridges first. Then you get to like something like, okay, Selfridges. And then I wrote the guy a couple of emails, never got back to me. And then Joe said, well, their office is above the store, right? So you go there, and they always have to come down. So I went there with my cans. I started like in January 2016, and I went there, and I was there with my cans. It was raining, it was cold, and he comes down the stairs, sees me with my cans, and he says, "I told you I wasn't interested," and walks back up. And here I am, coming from like the coolest job in the world to this like little nerd standing there with his 2 cans. And I just walked out, I cried. I'm like, what? Because you always go like, why did I do this? What is this? What? You know? But then, you know, whatever, we got in, a year later or so, that was a big highlight, of course. But like, I think that's the toughness of not having anything to hide behind. But also, that is also the cool thing. I think that's also a big reason was for me to start my own business, because I was always quiet. I was very, what do you call it? What's the right word in English? Whatever. Never listened to my boss. I don't know what's the right word for that.
I don't know if there is a word.
I would always go, no, that's the better way. That's the better way.
Yeah.
And then I just thought, well, why don't I really find out if I'm that good?
All right. I think that was like, I really resonate with that. That's kind of why I went on my own, just to be like, am I really arrogant, or do I sometimes know better?
Yeah, exactly.
I need to put my ego in check.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, and I think it does put your ego in check. Let's not do your own business. Because you realize very good what you're good at, what you're not good at, which I kind of knew, but I think even the things that you're good at, if you then don't succeed in those areas, which you sometimes, of course, very much do, then it can really hurt you hard. I remember I was talking to some investors like not too long ago, and they were talking about like how they thought the positioning wasn't that great and all that kind of, And it really kind of hurt me hard. Like even like after all those years and even having like success, like, you know,
that's tough.
it's still like, oh, I thought that was really my strong area. So I think that in that sense, I'm glad I did it, because you do get to go out. I think otherwise there's always be this, especially if you are that way, maybe that's the biggest indicator if you should start your own business. If you always think you know better, because it's good to go out in the world and actually try.
And it takes I think founders have to have this very specific combination of like a die-hard belief that they're always right.
Yeah.
Because if you lose that confidence, you just wouldn't do it again.
No, exactly.
You just be like, this is crazy. I'm going to go back to my day job where I don't get rejected all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to have that coupled with this like deep humility, which I think is a really difficult.
Yeah,
it's like a difficult combination, because if you don't let yourself, if you let yourself question your ability, it all collapses.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. And I think, you know, the real big success people are the ones that never even are like all slightly crazy, like, you know, whatever.
Well, I know, yeah.
I know that you know, Musk is your classic example, or, you know, Trump, you know, but I think you've got a couple of those in the UK, right? Or, so I think, you know, I always think, look, I'm slightly traumatized, and that's where I maybe wanted to do this, but I'm not traumatized enough to like have no regard for my people, because I always think, you know, and that is also a doubt of mine, because I really always in all my jobs, whatever, if it was a job or my own business, I always thought the main goal I want is that people should have, you know, great times, whether they look back at the time I was at Red Bull or at the time I was at Tenzing, and that was a great time. Because I think that's the fun. That's your biggest impact you can have always. I think, because that's a big team. Or even now I've only like a team of 15, but they would go home to their girlfriends and boyfriends and moms and dads, like children, and then, you know, if they're happy, you know, that's a huge impact you can have. But then sometimes I do doubt, like, oh, am I not too nice, or like, you know, so then especially if you see all the kind of, you know, the successes of the nasty people who tell their team to work whatever 20 hours a day, or like, you know, that classic Silicon Valley kind of blueprint. But then again, I couldn't be like that.
I couldn't do it, but I do believe that you can't build a huge business and be really nice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, maybe that's my purpose in life then, to prove that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
You're like, oh,
I'd love to. No, I'm like,
look at him.
Said like, keep me posted, because for me, that's like the biggest conflict. I think the biggest thing that holds back up my business's growth is my people pleasing. Yeah, but I mean, he wasn't a startup founder, but he was pretty nice, I would say. Like, you know, someone like Nelson Mandela, always, if I see anything about him, I think the nicest man on earth, being so forgiving. And, you know, so I think, I mean, there must be businesses. Can we come up with one? Someone, tell us. Please send us a postcard. Give us some inspiration.
I know one. Beavertown. So I know Logan Plant really well.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's an amazing guy. Super friendly.
Great.
Very modest. And he built a business that he sold for pretty decent money, I would say. He did okay for himself.
We've got a case study.
Yeah, and he was like, you know, you could argue him, and because they were the two. I mean, I think aren't they nearly bigger than Brewdog?
I don't know.
So, you know, obviously huge brand, very unique, very cool.
Very cool.
And he's the nicest possible man.
Okay.
All right, so, you know, that's one example, but there's probably plenty.
All right. We'll keep looking.
Yeah, exactly.
We will keep looking. You said earlier that you don't believe in hierarchy. How does that work? Like, tell me what that looks like in your business.
Yeah, so I remember when I started, there was a couple of drivers. There was like the business driver that I felt there was an opportunity here. There was, you know, and my personal drive. My personal drive was to build something around my hobbies instead of, you know, Formula Ones that I was never really cared about, or destroy the planet kind of. And I was like, okay, find something that's around my skill set, around my hobbies. And also, like, I was always, like I said, I never agreed. I had good bosses, but I just never didn't like hierarchy at all, ever, because I was always like, why are they telling me what to do? I always felt that real sense of I need to be free, right? And then I thought, if I start my own business and I'm then the boss, only I will benefit from this, like not having a boss thing. And I was always never like, I've never been like a manager. I've never like, say you were in my team, I'd go like, hey, Lottie, like last week we agreed you did this. Tell me what you did exactly. I hate doing that. It's a waste of time. So I really like the self-starters, just to get on with it. And so there was like a part of me like was really from a philosophy point of view. I just think, why would I be the only point of benefits? From a philosophy, like I want people to be free and have that freedom. Secondly, like when people just take responsibility from their own bit, they'll know best. So there's a part of like business philosophy there, and there's like a personal, like I'm not that kind of manager, So I literally took it really far. We've kind of reined it in a bit, but I was like, I am not the boss. We had zero hierarchy. And, everyone, we have commitments. So little word things are important, which we still do. So you get targets, because targets are like top down. You have commitments. You make your commitments every year. And also you don't, and it's really cool, which we still do. So you come into the business, you get assigned a coach for like 3 months, and then you choose your own coach after that. So you're effectively choosing your own boss. So it's like, which you could let go as well. You can go, I don't want that boss anymore. I'll have another one. But we didn't even call him boss, we just call him coach, and they help you a bit. So there was all that. And then at one point I was, this was like 2 years in or 3 years in, I was like, okay, I'm not the boss, so I didn't decide on salary. And that's where when it went wrong, because I was like, everyone decides their own salary. And so I had this model, and we spoke to, because it's quite popular in the Netherlands actually, like the non-hierarchy principle. So there's a lot of businesses. We went out to Holland with a team, found out how everyone does it, how salaries are defined, everything. And I just said, look, what we'll do. So together with our CFO, we said, okay, we grew this much this year. The salary pot is going to be, let's say, just for argument's sake, the salary increase pot will be £10,000. Yeah. We're with 10 people. I'm just making these numbers up and then there was 360. So you had two things, and those two things we still do. So you have your commitments, and your commitments you discuss with your coach. So you say, these are the commitments I hit 100% of my commitments. So that's decided half year and year. And then, so you got your commitment bit, and then you got your leadership skills. How did you show your leadership skills? And that's, of course, important for the whole team to kind of see if you showed leadership skills. That'd be like, did you shape the business? Did you develop yourself, develop others? All those we have 4 kind of leadership skills. And then you're kind of, people score each other, all open, so you know who does what. And then the idea was that you would then see and it was all open. So I could see, for instance, you could see, you go like, oh, I was the highest scorer on my leadership skills, and I hit all my commitments. So that means there's a £10,000 pot with 10 people. I'm going to take 2,000 of that, right? And then someone else would go, oh, well, I didn't hit all my commitments. I didn't, didn't score that well in the 360 this year because blah, blah, blah. I'm only going to take £250 of that. So that was how I thought.
And the theory was that it would go from like the highest scoring would choose first, and then what was left or it was like a democratic exercise? It
was just actually, like I said, maybe it wasn't thought through enough. Although
I love the vision of it.
Yeah. So it was just basically what we would do is you wouldn't have an order. It wouldn't. We could have done that, but that would get like the highest one gets to choose first. Which is like this is your stuff.
Yeah.
You know how you rate it exactly versus everyone else.
So you make a view on what your fair
You know the pot, and then you get to choose. So, and assuming that would be relatively fair, that you would go, but I think like the first person came into my office and said something like, I want 10,000, like, give me the whole pot. I'm like, what? And it was actually one of the darkest days of my life because I'd really spent a lot of time on this and I really trusted everyone to be like, but I just miscalculated it because it's that scarcity thing about like, yeah, but what if I say 500 and everyone else says 5,000, so it just, that didn't go well at all. So now we changed the system. It's still roughly there. And I don't decide it as such, but it's like, we just say, if you hit your commitments and you score this or that, then you get this.
Okay.
Right. So it's more automatic.
Okay.
Which, and the one thing we have let go a bit because at one point we were growing quite fast in teams, and then you'd choose someone to be your coach that wasn't, in that team.
Yeah.
That then got a bit messy. So we've reined it in a bit. But it's but the whole principle, like the Minty example, where I said like I don't believe in it, or I didn't think we can afford it at this moment. I didn't believe in it, but I don't think we should do it
right now. Yeah,
right now. And she said, well, we are. You know, that is and that did pay out really well, because at the end of that's the basic philosophy. Like, she knows that world better than I do. Like, she lives in that world as well. Like, you know, that's always a big thing about our talent as well. Like, she does triathlons and she's like in that kind of sporting, in that gym world. So she knows better than I do. And I think that's where about me trusting the team to, you know, or like trusting the process of non-hierarchy in that sense, to go, I think I knew better, but I let her choose. Right, so I think it's a great, and I think we've also been always, even pre-COVID, we've been extremely, you know, I see sometimes these LinkedIn posts like, oh, I'm a boss and I let my people work anywhere or any. We've had that from the beginning. I do like the office though. I think we have one rule that you have to be in the office on Monday morning. We have a little catch up every Monday, and every month and Thursday we have Thursday of the month we do like a proper monthly catch up. But for the rest, you're kind of pretty free to work where. But I do like. I remember when it was post COVID, and I was living in Amsterdam at the time, and obviously office space is expensive in London. And I remember thinking, look, you know, I didn't know when I was going to be coming back to London. I said, look, you know, why don't we just don't get an office? And we could, because I'd calculated we could go skiing and to Nepal every year and not have an office. That's the same cost. And everyone wanted an office. So this whole thing about people want to work from wherever, I don't think that's really true. I think, you know, office. I'm a big office believer as well. And especially there's one girl on the team, she said it really well at the time. She just started and she said, like, I have to learn so much. And she goes, I learned from watching you take a call, you know, or like run a meeting. You know, because, and then I think so, especially for the young ones that have so much to learn, you know, you have to be in an office environment, see how someone, you know, behaves, and also just have fun. Like, you know, I remember my first job was just like, all my, you know, you got your best friends from uni and your first job. The same with Tenzing, all the people that start there are still amazing friends. So like without an office, that wouldn't be possible. And I think if you have like a proper tech people, they're a bit more like, you know, okay, I can work wherever. But I think especially in the space we're in with marketing and sales professionals, social
really
people.
Agree. I think we're a fully remote business. We're now a roaming business, which is our move on from that. And I think the key thing is that most of our team don't live in London. I think the challenge, if you've got a predominantly London-based team and you then take away the office, is that they've got all the downsides of the cost of living in London and all the challenges of that, and not the upside of the social interaction. Mine are all over the country, and so
that
I
works.
get them together. If I get them together twice a year, it's success.
Wow.
But it's like, it's such an interesting topic, and I went very viral on Reddit a few weeks ago for talking about this stuff and got some quite like vitriolic feedback about, like, apparently no one wants to go to an office. I think it's so interesting hearing your story where for many businesses it's really coming from candidates. We do lots of recruitment work and we really see this come through. It's not founders mandating this. It's individuals saying, I want to be part of a culture. And for
100%. I was like, I thought it'd be such a cool thing to. But I am glad because I also actually really like the office. I like that's one of the things I love about, you know, building a team. You get to like choose your friends. You know, you go like, oh, I'll work with you, and I think you're great. But I think
we need a bit of like, I think founders need a bit of uplifting too sometimes. And there's those moments at home where you close your laptop after a difficult call, and there's no one to like give you that energy feedback.
Yeah, and I think it's just fun. The cool thing is, like, if you're with a group of people building something that's exciting, I think that's just fun, you know. So, yeah, I'm a big believer.
Nice. I like the Monday morning rule. What advice has stuck with you in your career?
God. There's like a really old one and a really new one come up. So I think my grandfather always just said something along the lines, or he just said exactly like, it doesn't matter what you do as long as you're best in it. And I don't know if I'm the best, whatever, marketing person or, you know, but I think it's nice to have an area that you really, like, it comes back to the point I said with the startup. I always, like, when I do a lot of talk for like students or anything, I always say, what's the average age that people start their own business? Do you know that stat?
I'm going to guess that it's like 40s.
Yeah, it's 42. Well, a lot of people say, 26 or something because of the, you know, all the Facebook and Snap founders and all that kind of stuff. but it's 42, and I think so until that point, you got to just find out what you could potentially be the best in the world at. I think that is nice. I mean, again, it's an arbitrary thing, we don't have like Olympics on this anyway, right? So, but it's more an internal thing. Like, this is what I love doing. I can really be good at this. I'm getting a lot, like I'm starting my first job. I remember that very well. And then I got like loads of compliments on that area. Like, oh, you're quite a creative marketing person. I love that. So coming up with new ideas and then really seeing them through. Those are my two main superpowers, I would say. I'm very badly organized for the rest and stuff. But those are coming up with something and then making it happen just by like energy. So that's like, oh, I love this, and that's what I just went better and better at, and then finding jobs that fit that well. So I think that is a really. So I was at Unilever, and then I thought, well, I thought you're a marketing manager, but actually you're more of a manager. And then I like the marketing.
Yes, that's why I left P&G.
Yeah.
There's not very much marketing in.
So you're project manager, which is not a great strength. And then I moved to MTV then, because it's much more creative and social media platforms. And then Red Bull, a very creative company, because you had to come up with events and then execute those events. So that was so cool. And then I could then hone that skill that I've learned over the years of storytelling, community building into my own business. So I think that is probably the main one. Just find out what you are extremely good at, but you get a lot of energy from, and then kind of find a job that matches that. I remember just at the last my Red Bull career, I did like this London Business School course, and it was really about getting to know you, like 2 weeks of only getting to know yourself. And this professor always says, once you know yourself really well, the number one thing is finding a job that fits that. And then the second bit is compensating with people around you, the stuff that you're not good at. Yeah. And only the last bit is try and change yourself. But this was a proper professor that did nothing else than this, and he based it, the last bit is nearly impossible. Right? If you get your feedback, my feedback's still roughly the same as my first job. Yeah. Right? Can be more organized, can let us know further in advance, all the stuff that I always get. So that never changes. So it's like the first two is crucial, finding it, you're with 30 or 75% is like within your hardcore skills, compensating for the rest, trying to tweak your.
But I think that tweak is just don't get tripped up by it.
No.
Just work out what little you need to do to stop it really letting you down.
Yeah, exactly.
And then keep it neutral.
Yeah.
Make your spike spikier.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was your old advice. You said you had some.
Yeah,
new
I
advice.
just saw a new one from that went a bit viral on LinkedIn from Federer. Did you see that one?
No.
He said so he played 1500. He did one's inauguration speeches, whatever you call them. And he said, I played 1,560 single matches in my life, won 80% of them, but only won 54% of the points.
Okay.
So that was such a beautiful stat, you know. So he said, I nearly lost half my points. Yeah. And he said, although I think every time you lose a point, it's just a point. Yeah. And I thought that really resonates with me, because you can, as a founder as well, you can go you can see things happening, or, a listing that didn't go through can really get you down. And I was like, I'm really going to take this one on board, right? It's just a point. And the better you handle that, the more focused you are on that next point. Right, so it's like the big tennis players. You can see it so well. There's much more clear than that in tennis. You said now they see a new Alcaraz guy. You see him lose all those points, but he wins all the important ones because he just focused on the next one.
I think that's the key thing, that you can lose more. You can win more games than you win points.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that shows with him 80% versus 54.
That's so powerful.
And I think I'm really wanting. So I see so much of these speeches, and a lot of them are just like, but this one is like, I'm really going to try and totally ingrain that in my system.
Let those points go, know which ones.
Yeah, for points, you lose a point because, that's just it. And then you focus on the rest. And then keep focusing, and coming back to my other point of my grandpa, let's say, then keep focusing on your own strengths. Again, you get distracted by, we talked a bit before the camera about all these new startups now kind of following TENZING and launching clean energy and healthy energy and whatever. And it's like, just focus on your own strengths. Like, we are the number one. We start this category. What are we good at? And not looking at your competitors, which is exactly probably the same as what Federer would have done. So I think that was a beautiful piece of advice.
I really love that. What one thing, this is my final question, can someone listening to this help you with?
Help me with? Well, the main thing would be buy more TENZING.
I think
remember
it's
the,
really legit to ask.
I was in Holland on King's Day, and just a guy comes up to me, a Dutch guy, which happens to me in Holland and in the UK, relatively regularly, but in Holland never happened. He comes to me like, he was drunk. He's like, "Oh, you're Huib van Bockel. You're the founder of TENZING. I love TENZING. I've been following your journey on LinkedIn, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Oh, do you drink the product?" He goes, "No." I'm like, "You're not a fan. You said you're the biggest fan." Like,
One, help me out. Go and buy a multi-pack
go
now.
buy a TENZING. Yeah. So, there is this, I recognize as well sometimes where I really love a brand, but you don't buy anything from it. And I think, it's like, I think as well, it's like a deeply ingrained habit. Like, so again, if we asked once, what would you rather have? We just asked literally, and you can ask is leading the witness, but it was just, would you rather have an energy drink that's made from artificial ingredients or one that's made purely from plants? 82% says purely from plants, right? So why don't they do that then? We don't have 80% market share. It's just because it's habits ingrained by millions of pounds of marketing, right? We're just creatures of habits and social. It's all about habits and social, right? At the end of the day, the clothes, why am I wearing these jeans? Because, I saw someone that's slightly cooler than I wear them, probably, subliminally.
Somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah. I didn't choose these myself. It's just I think you be conscious of your habits. And then there is healthier options out there for you. TENZING.
And here's one we made earlier.
And just, go out and grab one. I think that would be the number one way to help.
I think that's a perfect end.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Great chatting to you.
Thank you so much for listening. A reminder, please do hit follow because it really does help us make sure that we can bring great people to you. Drop me a DM on LinkedIn if there's someone you'd really like to hear from, and I promise to do my best to reach out to them. If you could leave a rating or review, that will make a massive difference. Next up, we've got founder of Patch Plants, the e-com Goliath that brought plants straight to our living rooms, Freddie Blackett, coming over for a conversation. Freddie very recently made his last delivery as founder of Patch Plants, so I'm really looking forward to hearing what he's up to next.